Welcome to Owl Basket Games. I'm Gerolf and this is Vandil. And today we're going to be talking about the game which will appear from here.
Which we played in 2021.
Yes.
And actually was published in 2021.
Mm-hmm. So, Metroid Dread. A little disclaimer here. I liked this game. And I think I have to give this disclaimer because I'm probably going to be saying a lot of things that will make you think that I didn't like the game. But, well, I did. So that's that. That's the disclaimer. Okay, so finally a 2D Metroid on a main Nintendo console line.
Yeah, and new
Yeah.
for that matter.
Yeah.
The latest ones were just remakes or remakes of
Yeah.
previous games.
So, to give a little bit of backstory about the game series, as far as I understood, the Metroid series itself has always been, if you look at Nintendo's consoles back from the very beginning, Nintendo always was that one maker who tried to sort of cater to everybody, give something to like every single gamer type, or at least as many as possible. And the Metroid series was always like the one that was for older children or, more advanced gamers. You could even say like the type of gamer that we consider hardcore gamer these days. So from the NES onward, the Metroid has always been sort of that game. There was the original Metroid on the NES, then there was the Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. Nintendo 64 didn't actually have a Metroid game.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Game Boy did have.
Yeah. GameCube had Metroid Prime, so at that point the Metroid series went from 2D to 3D. And it seemed like that continued through the Wii era with the Metroid Prime series. And then during the Wii U era, it sort of seemed like the Metroid, once again, it disappeared from the main console line. I don't really know if this is true, but it sort of feels like Nintendo was trying to put Bayonetta to replace sort of that same category. So it was for like those players who wanted something more advanced and something a little bit harder. So Metroid is back, and it's back in 2D, so this is a 2D game, or, well, I guess the graphics are three-dimensional. It's not a retro game. It's not done with pixelated graphics. It's a really nice looking 3D graphics, but you play on a 2D plane.
And the maker of this game, a Spanish studio.
Yeah.
And they made the previous remake from the Game Boy game, the Samus Returns.
Yeah.
So that basically was their proof of quality or proof of their abilities. Although I think we're gonna talk about where their game engine came from later on. I was very excited when I saw the first trailer for this because Emmy, these cool robotic creatures, it really felt like Metroid was going back to more to the horror style of mood.
Yeah.
Because they started up with this Emmy chase where this robot you can't really defeat at all with your current powers just chases after you and you just have to stay away from it, or you get this cutscene where you have a teeny tiny chance to break away from that, but
Yeah.
otherwise you will die instantaneously.
Yeah. So it's like a quick button event, but it's sort of it's just one button press, and you have to time it really well, and I think it's not always the same. So
yeah,
you can't,
it changes it up.
Yeah, you can't just learn that one like timing. I'm pretty sure at least there's at least a couple of different timings, so it changes up. And if you fail it, then you die, so you really have to avoid this enemy. And indeed, the Metroid series, we're pretty sure that it's gotten its original inspiration from the Alien movies.
Yeah.
So, sort of, yes, it's going back to its roots by, being more horror-focused.
The horror element isn't that strong, I thought, but it's better than I could expect from it, because for many years now I've feared that Nintendo is kind of scared of scaring players or giving them some more horror type of experiences.
Yeah, the Emmy sections are in fact sections. The Emmy robot has its own area that it's patrolling, and it can't actually leave that area. When you go into that area, you're in immediate danger, and as you get out of that area, then you're immediately sort of safe. Of course, there's other aliens and life forms there threatening you, but nothing as dangerous as the Emmys, usually.
It's same as usual. Samus breaks her armor and you need to reassemble it and get back to your ship. Except that's not very classic Metroid. You usually start from your ship and then go to explore, but this is you start from the ship and there's the cutscene that shows you that somehow you are beaten and you don't know what happened to you and you need to get back to your ship.
Yeah.
That's your goal here.
So you meet this, basically someone comes to this planet and she immediately meets a Shoujo warrior and they fight. They have this sort of anime style fight, and something happens and she wakes up without any of her armor at the bottom of the mine or the area and starts exploring. And I think, because one thing I really want to mention is that the cutscenes in this game are really great, especially how Samus is portrayed in many of the cutscenes. And I feel like this first cutscene where the fight is very anime style and the ending is very inconclusive and Samus just wakes up without her armor, and that's never really explained, or if it was something so unmemorable that I forgot. So I think that's the one like bad cutscene, so to say.
Yeah, it was made just to start the game where the game makers wanted the game to start from a mystery and you need to get back and reassemble your armor on your way back.
Yeah, but aside from that, all the cutscenes I felt like were really amazing. And okay, there may have been like one or two little mishaps. For the most part, first of all, Samus almost never speaks. I think she says a couple of words in one cutscene, but aside from that, everything she does is shown with her physique and with the things she does. And a big part of that is that, you know, for those of you who remember the Metroid Other M game on the Wii, that fiasco, none of that stuff like, no, she doesn't know what she's doing because she's a stupid teenager, or oh no, she can't be strong because she's a woman, or there's none of that. It's just she's really the badass bounty hunter that we really, or most people have been hoping her to be portrayed here. I think there was one cutscene where I don't remember how exactly it went, but she's sort of like, there's like this written boss monster near her and you've just got an upgrade, and Samus just looks at her arm like, huh, neat, I got an upgrade, and points it at the boss and just shoots it dead and stuff like that. So she's just really cool in this game.
Yeah, I actually felt like they were started trying to compensate for the mistake that was Other M. Somehow I felt like that they were kind of turned the knob way higher than it needed to be, but she was portrayed as a badass and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, got a lot of laughs out of us and a lot of satisfaction, I'd say.
Yeah, I really wonder what we would have thought if Other M was something we had never seen or heard about. How we would feel like about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, cutscenes were nice, and it's always commendable when game makers let the protagonist or the player character not speak at all, or at least as little as possible, because it's, at the end of the day, it's your avatar and you are kind of supposed to inject yourself into that character by playing the character the way you really want to play. So I really like that.
coming to the gameplay and the controls. So first of all, I guess this is one of the few sort of gripes that I have with the game, and this is all personal. Just like I feel like Samus as a character, or like the suit that she has on her, this mechanical superpowered suit, I think there's like possibilities that she could work really well as this, you know, a really tankish sort of character. And it feels like they've been pushing her into being more like this sort of really fast ninja sort of character during the last couple of games. But despite that, yeah, sure, it's sort of a missed opportunity that they are making her faster instead of stronger, so to speak. But at the same time, yeah, the controls feel just awesome. It's like one of the things is that I often criticize games where you have this, if they're like even regardless of if they're 2D or 3D, if you have this free aim and you have these very sort of tiny bullets that you're shooting, it's usually pretty bad because it's hard to hit the targets you have to hit, and especially if the enemies are sort of the type where you have to hit them really fast and so on. But here, I don't think I ever felt any sort of misgivings or grievings about that. Because, yeah, you can free aim in any direction you want with your robotic gun hand, so to say, and it always felt really good. And there's a mechanic where if the enemy is sort of charging at you, you can sort of uppercut it really fast, and that will leave the enemy open for a while. And that's all part of the being a little sort of ninja-ish character nowadays. But it felt really great, and you get a lot of abilities during the game that enhance your options of moving really fast towards places, and hyper jumping really long distances and stuff like that. So it, and sort of there's both like a sliding or moving really fast, and at the same time sort of more stealth-like abilities which you can use. So there's just a lot of options, and in that sense, yeah, it feels just really great.
Yeah, and as I remember it, I think all the abilities got to shine pretty well, meaning that the makers put in these extra challenges and other stuff that require you to use all of your abilities.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently. I can't really remember if there was, because this is one of the gripes in Twilight Princess. You get in this awesome Beyblade spinning top, and you really don't use it as much as you'd love to use.
Yeah.
You have some of the tracks in the Hyrule field, so compared to that, I felt like the abilities, you got to use the abilities to a satisfactory extent.
Yeah, for whatever reason, like I don't really know why, but it felt like there wasn't any abilities that we were like, oh yeah, I had this, I've never used this for a long time or whatever. You always had some reason to remember that, yeah, I have this ability, and oh, I need to use this now, and I should use this here. And for the most part, everything felt like, I guess part of that is that, you know, some of the abilities are, I guess one of the first upgrades I think you get is, of course, your missiles. That's a staple in every Metroid game, and those are some of the first things that you start to collect is, you know, these missile packs, so that you can carry more maximum amount of missiles. And of course, these, I don't remember what they're called, like energy kits, energy capsules, something like that, which allow you to have more maximum health. And yeah, you need to use all sort of abilities in order to find those or get those. So that's, I guess, one part of why you always have a reason to use those.
Gameplay, nice, perfect, one would say. And I think there was a lot to do in the game. There were, I don't remember the exact number of the major areas you had, but they are named after the first letters of the alphabet.
Yeah, there was something like 6 to 8, something like that.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot to explore, especially if you want to 100% like we always do.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another gripe I have with the game, that as you're exploring the areas, you can sort of see where you walked. Basically, the two-dimensional map shows you that, yeah, this is a part that you jump through, and it's not like the entire room. The problem is that it doesn't do that for the entire room. So if you want to sort of explore every place, then you indeed have to sort of jump and use all sort of wall jumping and double jumping and all sort of abilities in order to
clean up the map.
Yeah, actually go through the entire map. And yeah, I think we did that. So we got all the places that we can possibly get. But
yeah, the best part was that you started obsessing of it pretty early on the game, and then when we got the special screw attack jump where you can jump indefinitely, then we got all the little gray areas cleared.
Yeah. Another gripe I had was that, well, okay, so this is what I need to, I guess, establish. Like, all of the major gripes that I have with this game are not because it's a bad game, but because of, like, potential.
Missed potential,
yeah.
do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so missed potential, because there's this, well, there used to be this one game company whose slogan was create expectations. And I guess that sort of sums part of my experience really well, in that there were a lot of sections in the game where it sort of created certain expectations. And I started hoping that the game would develop into some direction or another, and then it didn't. And one of them is that the game is, for the most part, it's pretty linear. So you can't really choose where to go for the most part. And there, at some point, of course, the world starts opening up little by little. But even then, a lot of times it felt like, okay, so there's new areas there and there, but I have no reason to go there, or I could go check there, but I just see, okay, there are sort of new areas, but I have to follow the storyline in order for me to get a new weapon or a new skill, so that I can at some point go back and get those. And it felt like it was only at sort of very late in the game that I could actually feel like, okay, now I can start exploring every place and actually not feel like I go to the first corridor that I see and, oh yeah, I can't do anything here, I still need something. So that's one of my gripes. And the other one, there's a lot to explore, and we're explorers. As we mentioned, we visited every single like square on the maps. And it's especially hard because there's some like nooks and crannies that are sort of, you need to jump sort of very specifically there to make sure that you get every single sort of tile of the map open up or visited. And the game itself, there's really no reward for exploration, aside from the fact that Samus becomes more powerful as you find every single upgrade. But the game is, if you look at the rewards of the game, what you can get unlocked, so to say, it's all based on your speed. So it's a very speedrun heavy focused game. If you just look at the rewards, of course, the rewards aren't that big of a deal. There's just, I think, 6 images that you can open. So it's not...
Yeah, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You mean the gallery?
Yeah, the gallery.
Yeah.
So,
those rewards, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that big of a deal. But still, it feels kind of strange that, you know, I was sort of playing it under the mindset that, you know, maybe I also get some nice reward for 100% in the game, and there was nothing really. And then I look at the I think I looked through the walkthrough or somewhere what are the requirements for opening up those pictures in the gallery, and it's actually just speed, so you have to play the game through as fast as possible to get those, and that's not really something I'm personally interested in. So that was kind of a personal gripe as well, but once again, for speedrunners it's great, and I don't think it takes away from the overall experience. It's still a great game, but it's just something I personally had a little problem with.
Earlier on I mentioned the game engine this game developer used, because before this they made the Samus Returns remake, but before that probably the reason why they got to make Samus Returns was this Castlevania side-scrolling game, and it was really apparent that that's what they used for this game as well, the same engine. They already had this experience of making Castlevania and Metroidvania style games. It's no wonder that probably their third game of this kind of game is so polished, that because they had these two games before it to hone their skills in this kind of genre. It's really apparent, and that's where the ninja style, the play style comes from. I don't remember if you play as Alucard or some Belmont in that game, but the main character in that Castlevania game has the same move set or very similar move set as Samus has in this game.
Right.
So they kind of just used that. They just put a Metroid coating on it and refined it and made it more feel like a Metroid game. But basically it's just a Castlevania game remodeled into a Metroid Dread game.
Now that you mentioned it, actually, we already spoke about how there was a lack of a Metroid game during the Nintendo 64 era. And I guess the reason why we call this genre not a Metroid-like, but a Metroidvania game, is because during that Nintendo 64 era, of course, the PlayStation 1 existed during that time, and there was no Metroid. So Castlevania sort of took that Metroid gameplay and started honing it further, and so there was these PlayStation 1 games which sort of took the mantle there, and that's why it's not just Metroid, but there's these Castlevania that continued that traditional line. And in that sense, if you're feeling bad that it's just or it can be considered just a Castlevania game with a Metroid coating, I mean, they're basically the same game style, so it's just one of them is in this like a classical fantasy setting.
Yeah.
In a
vampires, gothic, cathedrals, werewolves.
Yeah, and with swords and magic. And the Metroid is, of course, in a, I don't know if sci-fi is actually a right term, but in a futuristic, robotic, shooting lasers and stuff setting. So in that, I wouldn't feel bad calling them like coatings of each other, because that's very much what they are.
Yeah, this is something we've been talking privately about this. If a game studio finds a good game formula, then especially if they're an indie game maker, then I'd really love them to just take that game and make another game. Not necessarily a series, but use that what they've already done a very good job at, and then just own it and start making their kind of brand off of this single game type. And I think this is what they've done with this studio has done, taking this Castlevania format and just turned it into Metroid games. And hopefully they make more, because this Metroid Dread has sold really well, so I think that's gonna give a good signal to Nintendo. Although Nintendo is a pretty weird company, they don't necessarily see the profits all the time. But yeah, we have hope that they're gonna make even more games, and I hope they start experimenting and exploring new aspects, or even getting back to this. Super Metroid had this atmosphere that I really miss from this game. The Emmy sections had that kind of feeling, and Metroid Prime, I think also. A few years back I played it again, and it has this little claustrophobic and you being all alone in this weird planet feeling. It's very unsettling, but it's also very beautiful. So there's this weird contrast of being very afraid and very in awe of all the places you explore.
Yeah, I also miss that, and I really hope that they can, take what they made here and indeed, of course, make not just a sequel with nothing but improvements, but of course, like take the weak parts of these games and maybe improve on those. What I'm personally hoping for is indeed more of a sort of a open world feeling, because like this is one of those little things in these Metroidvania type of games, in that it's a small thing, but at the same time it feels very big. Does the game feel linear, or does it feel like it's all open and you can see everything, but you can just, you can see a ledge and you just can't reach it, just because it's not because the game developer has locked it behind some door that's gonna open when you pass a checkpoint in the game, but it's something that's locked only because you don't have the ability or the skill to get there yet, or something that's behind a boss, and the only reason why you can't get behind there is because you just lack the ability to beat that boss, and you can either just get good, so to say, or you can go travel around and get better weapons and armor and abilities and power up, and now you can beat it even without getting all that good in the game.
Yeah. I feel like some people might get now confused, because when you look at this game, it does do that you get a new ability. Oh, now places open up to me. But you are talking about this additional nuance to it, that you can basically go anywhere. You can enter a door and see, oh no, there's a boss there, and you can try to beat it. But in this game, when you meet a boss, you already they have given everything to you to beat that boss.
Yeah, and I think there was one or two places in the game where there was a door that actually opened because I spoke with a robot or something. So that was specifically something that had nothing to do with my abilities or anything.
Yeah.
And I just sort of like to see a Metroidvania game where that's like a completely a no-no, where it's all about your abilities and the stuff and your skills and everything that you've gathered. And I think that it's the same with the Zelda Legend of Zelda series. Breath of the Wild showed that the Zelda series can work really well in an open world environment, and in fact it's just returning to its roots, because the first and the second Zelda games were open world games for the most part, and I can just see that there's huge possibilities. Once again, coming back to the missed opportunities there, in that they could change this, and there's times when you go to these rooms and you speak with Adam, who is sort of the control system of your ship, so to say, and that's one of the things that sort of brought to my mind that, oh yeah, I can come and I can talk to this AI control system at any time and ask them for, if I need like information or what. It felt like they can sort of see what I do and give me hints and whatever. It's sort of a natural system integrated into the game to sort of show me where to go if I'm lost, or give me information or whatever. But it wasn't. It was indeed just a part of that, linear storyline, in that there are certain parts where you have to go to those terminals and you have to speak with the AI, and that's it.
Yeah,
So-
getting bad flashbacks from the other M and Adam allowing Samus to enter places.
Yeah.
Or starting using their abilities.
Yeah, I mean, gladly there's not that in this game, but it sort of borders the line of where it almost feels like, oh no, is this that or is it not? I don't know.
But really looking forward to what they come up with next. I think one of the things, this is only speculation, but Metroid Dread really follows this kind of storyline that's been hammered into the series retrospectively. And it's really tied to the Game Boy Advance game, Metroid Fusion. I think it's a direct sequel to that game. And what they did with Breath of the Wild, they just took the timeline and put this game way into the future, so that none of that matters anymore. And maybe that kind of reboot or timeline skip could really give something more to work with in this Metroid series also.
Yeah, possibly.
Or at the very least not to think about continuity too much anymore and focus on making an interesting game where you get to enjoy exploring this alien world and get new abilities, and that rewarding feeling of finding something, new ability that lets you get to places you couldn't reach before. That kind of very satisfying gameplay loop that's on the very essence of these types of games.
Yeah. And it very much feels like, as I mentioned, I really like this game. But at the same time, there's this other Metroidvania game that came out sometime during the last couple of years, the Blasphemous. And I feel like there's like some parts about that game that I really like much more than this, even though this is a much more polished game, I'd say. And one of them is indeed the fact that you're in this sort of barren world and you can go almost anywhere, and it's up to you, and it's up to you to decide, what do I want to try and where do I want to explore, and this sort of sense of mystery that you don't know everything and the game doesn't tell you everything. To me, it feels like indeed, so somebody might say that it's good game design to make sure that the player knows what stuff does and how to use different abilities and so on. But I also feel like it's part of the, or it's something that's either been missing from Metroid series, or I don't know actually if it's been missing, but it's something that I'd hope for the whole series to have is indeed that mysteriousness, that you get something and the game doesn't really tell you necessarily what it does. And you get to try it and you get to fail and maybe you don't understand what it does. And because, as I mentioned in the start, the Metroid was always meant to be for those more experienced players. It wasn't meant to be your first game or whatever. It was meant to be something that challenges even those people who are constantly playing games and have already dealt with Mario and Zelda and everything, and now they want to try something harder. And part of that mystery and experimenting and trying things out is something that I really wish that the series would have more of. And it's one of the things that I think also is lacking sort of here, in that at the very start you get this like a really powerful weapon and it immediately shows you how to use it and where to use it and so on. So, well, I think they do a sort of okay job at it, but at the same time it does sort of feel like they show a little bit too much. I just want more mystery there. I want back to those childish days when I didn't know anything about any games and everything was hard, and part of it was because I didn't know how stuff worked, but sort of that everything is figurable. It's not like you're playing that one I don't remember. I think it was on Super Nintendo, that one Batman game where you get stuck on the first screen because you can't go left and you can't go right and you have no idea where to go. And the thing you have to do is press something like down and select to sort of shoot your whatever hook shot up there. So that's nothing that cryptic, of course, but a little bit of mystery. Okay, that's what I ask. But our overall review, of course, is that, yeah, this is definitely a game worth buying. Is there somebody who you wouldn't suggest it to? Maybe if you're not somebody who's scared of like these enemies that can kill you with one, or basically when they catch you, they take you down. So if you're looking for a bit more challenge, then this is a good place. And if you like speed running, then this is a really good place. You can even come up with some... I mean, we mentioned that the game is linear, but the game developers designed some parts to be so that you can skip certain weapons and stuff if you're clever. So there's that kind of stuff there.
I say at least be over 12 years old.
Yeah.
And if you're not averted to violence, then...
Yeah. No.
Hate violence, then...
Yeah. There's no drugs or nudity in this game.
So. Yeah. Peggy approved.
Actually, that's strange. There's no horror tag, even though the game is pretty...
Yeah, it doesn't get just far enough with the horror aspect.
Yeah. I guess Peggy has their own idea of what constitutes as horror.
Yeah, I don't really think it's a horror, except for those Emmy sections that are very light horror. And they're more like someone's chasing you, you're playing this tag with someone. I
mean, it's a survival game. And there's a hard mode if you feel like it's not hard enough. And I think they released a patch where I think there's even this like one-hit kill mode, basically, where you only have one health at all times and you can't take any hits. I think for me that always feels like that's taking it a little bit too far. But if that's something that you like, then it's there. Great game, we recommend it. Thank you for watching.
Yes.